Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And today I just wanted to get into a topic so I had posted a comment on a video that I had seen. And the topic of the video is not so much important, but more so somebody had said in the comments in regards to wanting a female who wanted a platonic friend, a friendship where in the video, the person in it was speaking to the dynamic of a friend that, takes them out as a male friend, takes them out, will pay for things, just enjoys them as a just regular platonic friend, whatever the case is. The context of the question beyond that really doesn't really matter. But someone in the comments had said something to the effect of, I wish that I had that, a friend who I could do these kind of things with. And I had posted a comment stating about how a lot of women don't really understand the dynamics of how things work with most males and how it's a little bit of a false understanding in the sense that if there's a guy who's, a platonic friends with you, first off, that's a very rare scenario, and I'll break down the reasons for why. But in addition to that, often you always usually have where either the woman likes the man or the man likes the woman. Now, in this case of the video, this woman kind of liked the man, but she was trying to deny that or hide that. And I think it went over a lot of women's head to then assume like, okay, there's such thing as just men who could be your friend and they do good things for you and maybe they cannot like you, and just that's the dynamic of the friendship. And the truth is that's kind of false. So first I'm going to break down that, and then I'm going to go into the response of the comment that I got after the fact, which is kind of really what sparks me wanting to do this topic right here. So the dynamic that a lot of women get thrown off with is they assume that when you have a situation where a guy likes the girl, but he doesn't say anything and he's in the friend zone, whether maybe he's purposely not pursuing more at the time because he feels it's not the right time, maybe she's with somebody or whatever the case is, a man will often be very catering to a woman, and that gives the false sense of this is how a friendship with a man is actually like. That he's actually, hyper nice. He gives you a bunch of his attention whenever you call him. He's there on the ready. If you guys want to just go out for lunch, he's going to pay for it. All these kind of things. That's not the norm behavior if a guy doesn't like a woman. And that's a false sense of an understanding of how that dynamic works, because the truth is that that's not how a regular male friendship would be with a woman if he doesn't like her. So in the comment space where someone was mentioning, I want to find a relation. I would love to find a friendship with a male where, it could just be platonic and that's it. I know that they're basing it off of the dynamic that they saw in this video where it's a guy who is doing that. He's paying for things and this, that, whatever the case is. And he's being nice to the woman, overtly nice, but he's not into her. I think she's into him though in this case, but that's still away from the point. You often were never going to have a situation where that's the case. And I had mentioned before that in this dynamic, that the only way a woman will get a true friendship from a man in this kind of dynamic is the woman, most likely the man has to not be attracted to the woman. If the man's not attracted to the woman, 9 times out of 10, the woman's probably attracted to the man. And then in that case, she's going to be liking him. And that's going to throw that quote unquote platonic dynamic off. Secondly, I also wrote and explained that a true sense of a platonic male friend is he's not going to pay for things because you're just friends. He's not going to be catering to things, not catering to you in this hyper sense of always available when you need them, always, like on the phone with you for hours or listening to you talk about, I don't know, other boyfriends and this and that, or whatever the case is. That's not going to be the thing because they're also busy living their life. So, and a guy who is in a space of really doing what he has to do, especially in his adulthood, and he's not just kind of moping around or whatever the case is, he's going to be very busy. So the idea that maybe you might have a friend who once in a while, when you guys are all together as a group of friends, you'll see that person, but you're not really going to have that dynamic of like the one-on-one like that. If you are friends at all, it's not going to be that dynamic. And in response to that, someone had made the response or comment that real men, grown men, have no problem paying the bill when hanging out with platonic female friends. And this person had went on to say, my male friends and family members operate in the same way. Now, family members don't really count. family members are going to do that for each other, and that's not a problem. But as far as male friends, the person who made this comment is probably somebody who has male friends that like them and won't say it, or they're waiting for the opportunity. But this is not something where when women say that to bait someone to say, this is what a real man is. First off, no woman can decide what a real man is. Just like, and I say that not in a derogatory way, not in the sense, but it's just that it's not said from the benefit. I'm not gonna say no woman can't say that, but it's not said in the benefit of what benefits the man. And when it comes to the dynamic of being a man or being a woman, it is about growth. It's about your well-being as well as the person that you're pursuing. So, case in point, you would never hear a woman say that if she's with somebody, it's okay that if her her man has friends, female friends, and for some people, a lot of people, there's nothing wrong with that. But if he's got a platonic female friend, you'll never hear her say, his girlfriend say, I'm okay with him paying for her and taking her out. That gives you the dynamic of the other side of it, which is why that statement in itself is very selfish, because it's saying it from the perspective of, I don't care about that man's life. I care about my life. So if he's paying for me, I care about that. But when we flip the role, no one's going to say, I'm okay with my man spending his hard-earned money that can go into this investment of this home, this family that we're building, towards a female friend to go hang out, and he's paying her stuff, they're platonic friends. Everyone would know that doesn't make sense. So that kind of statement comes from a biased place. And I had obviously responded to that comment similarly to the way I'm saying this now, in addition to, and I have a very major philosophy that I go by now when it comes to the dynamic of how a woman or a man should be and what's the best way for them to be. And that is from all angles, whether they are the child, the adult, the parent, or the grandparent, or whatever the case is. And I've broken that down before in a different video, but I just kind of give you a small tidbit over here. And I had said in the response to that, if you had a son, to this person who was commenting, if you had a son and your son, was growing up, he's in his young adult phase, would you want him spending money on a bunch of females, platonic females? Because it's not just going to be one friend that they may have. This context, when a woman says that, has to be viewed from the perspective of not just a selfish standpoint of just that one person, but this guy may then have a bunch of female friends. Is he paying for all of them? So I said it from the perspective, if you have a son and he's a young adult son, would you want him paying for all these females? Or would you want him putting that money into his 401k, into investing in a home for the future family he's going to have? And, these are things that when people say that concept of bending it towards what suits them, they're not looking at the reality aspect of what it means to be in those shoes as the person taking that hit or making that, being that way. Not just in their payment, but their time, and all that kind of, their effort taken away from their everyday life. No one speaks on that. They don't analyze it from that perspective. They're analyzing from what they want to receive. So that's always like a bad advice. But I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments. As far as men and women being platonic friends, particularly in this regards to like men being friends with women, just being platonic with wanting nothing. Do you think that it exists? Do you think it can exist? Do you think that it's one-sided? What's your breakdown on that? As far as I'm concerned, I think that, not to say it can exist, but I definitely feel that it's very unlikely, because 9 times out of 10, it's not beneficial to the man. And when you see the dynamic of a lot of female friends with other female friends, and they don't tend to last, that is the dynamic that how most women might say, oh, I don't like being friends with other females because maybe they're catty or they're maybe this, that. The truth is that a healthy dynamic relationship with a man would be the exact same way. He would not give you his energy. He would not give you his extra attention beyond just what's normal, not excessive, because he has other things he's doing. The only time they don't do that is because if they like the female, they like the woman. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that topic up because it had got a big A lot of people commented on that when I made that comment on that video, and it was just very much a thing that made me kind of start thinking, based on people's responses, of how many women started saying they would love that dynamic, and how many men said that dynamic doesn't make sense from the standpoint of the man. So you can see that it's definitely a one-sided dynamic where somebody wants it for the benefits, but they don't want it for the purpose of having to give anything themselves. They never said it like, you know, as a woman, I would love a friend like that, but I'd also pay for him if we go out, or I'll cook for him. You know, he's my friend, but I'm gonna one day, hey, come over. Like, as a friend, I'm making food, come and eat. They don't say that. They never said anything like that. So you can see it's coming from a standpoint of, what are you giving me as a friend? Which, you know, begs the question that that's a dynamic that just doesn't work. So anyway, you guys, as always, like, share, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next video.